Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Daily AI Show live. This is the very first time I don't think it's ever happened before when just one person is available at the start of the show, and hopefully others will join me. But I'm not seeing any people joining this particular stream either, so it could be a very lonely moment here on show 638 where we haven't missed a one. But it's me, Andy Halliday, and hopefully some of my colleagues will join in a few moments. But I want to kick us off with some discussion about some news items that I think are important. And one of them is, first of all, there's been a lot of discussion over the past several days about Claude Co-work, which is a new product leveraging the Claude Code infrastructure and a really important movement that enables general, non-technical users to invoke agency on their desktop in ways that are a lot more user-friendly than the terminal interface that is provided. I want to cast that as part of a general direction that's happening with both OpenAI and Google and Anthropic, and that is the productization of AI. So we're seeing this development of easy to access products or integrations into existing products using AI. And as we've discussed before, at OpenAI, they actually have a co-CEO kind of arrangement. You've got Sam Altman, and then you have a president of product. And that person, Fiji Simo, is responsible for this productization of AI. And there's a flurry of different products and soon to include the range of hardware devices that OpenAI is planning to deliver, including the newly leaked earbud kind of thing that will challenge AirPods as part of that. Hello to everyone in the chat. I see you're all joining us now. It's just me today so far. We'll see who else joins us. But back to the productization effort, Anthropic, like OpenAI, has just expanded their team to include a product organization where, just even a month or two ago, I would have said, look, Anthropic's focusing on enterprise coding. And that's where they're making their difference. They're very efficient there. And they have, a pretty substantial revenue stream that's coming from that makes them, profitable much earlier than OpenAI could become, with OpenAI investing heavily in their own compute and so on, also into their product organization and multiple product ranges. That is being matched now by Anthropic. They've expanded their team to incubate experimental products based on their forefront AI capabilities. And so the co-founder of Instagram, Mike Krieger, has joined Anthropic to be in charge of this collaboration around product development using the Anthropic toolset. And then there's another individual who will lead the product organization alongside the CTO. The CTO at Anthropic is named Rahul Patil, and the new lead of the product organization, this is not just the product, which is Anthropic's models, but now new products to be leveraging the Anthropic tools, and then delivering to the consuming public and to the enterprise public as well. That's a person named Ami Vora. And so now we have those folks working on new products. And this is all in the context of the recent release of Co-work, which, using Claude Code, the Anthropic team delivered in under 2 weeks. So a pretty impressive accomplishment and really changing the game on productization of AI, just as it's possible for you using vibe coding tools to create a new product, a new software product, or an interactive experience product on the web using vibe coding tools. All right. So let's move on to another area of discussion that I want to pursue, which is, what is the state of AI adoption in the general working population? And Microsoft's AI Economy Institute just a few days ago released a new report showing that globally, AI adoption in the working age population is at 16.3% in late 2025. So only 16% have adopted. And you can imagine why, globally, that seems like a low number, but not so much, because there's a lot of people who just, aren't literate enough or have access to the AI infrastructure tools like a computer and internet access to really, start the adoption process. But that's very, very widely distributed in terms of those percentages. The United Arab Emirates is the highest level of adoption among working age population at 64%. And would we expect that the United States, with all of its AI systems and Silicon Valley and development, all the major players, including the chip designer NVIDIA, are American companies, you would think that we would be next in line behind the United Arab Emirates with their 64%. We want to guess where we rank? 24th in the world. And so we're not really keeping up that way on the public side, the working age population, compared to other countries that are really promoting and advancing the use of AI. All right. The other thing that came out of that Microsoft AI Economy Institute report, which is interesting, is that DeepSeek has major traction in the smaller and underserved markets out there. And that's a cost issue, obviously. Like many of the adopters of AI here in the United States and in Europe and elsewhere are paying the major companies or using the free version or paying $20 a month roughly to get access to those models. Whereas DeepSeek is less expensive as an open source model, and it is used 2 to 4 times higher across the African continent than the other ones. And a Chinese company, Huawei, which has a lot of the telephone infrastructure, mobile phone infrastructure in those developing countries, is also partnered with DeepSeek to advance the use of DeepSeek in those countries. Now I'm weaving over to something about DeepSeek on the technical side. So take notes. There will be a quiz on this afterward. DeepSeek has just introduced a new technique in LLM inference that's advancing its capability in pure reasoning in a dramatic way. So, the innovations that the Chinese companies, starved of the sort of the scaling compute capabilities available if you can acquire the top end data center infrastructure like the NVIDIA Blackwell chips and so on, they've innovated around efficiencies that are along 2 different dimensions. And I'll circle back to this, but one of those 2 dimensions is the use of sparsity. Now, sparsity is the opposite of dense in the terminology of AI. Dense means that you're using every layer of the network in each inference run. That's a dense deep neural network. And sparsity means you're only activating certain portions of it. So if you have a 100 billion parameter model, any one inference run is dynamically assessing which portions of that deep neural network, the LLM, which layers of those have to be activated. And this has given rise to the primary architecture for LLMs today, which is called mixture of experts. So the only experts that are activated in this context are the ones which are relevant to the query. And that reduces the computational overhead, and it makes for a more efficient and effective inference run, and reduces the cost in both energy and compute time, and allows for a larger context window to be exploited. So all of those things are improving on the efficiency scale. The second dimension has to do with memory. And this is where the new DeepSeek technique comes in. So we know that, models just left as a dense model and, being injected with your prompt and some additional context that you type in at the time of inference, they can be subject to hallucinations. And so we like to ground that with a retrieval augmented generation model where you have an external memory, a database that is going to be referenced as context, and semantic relevance is used to selectively retrieve the relevant components of the grounding truth data that's in that retrieval augmented generation, typically a vector database, in order to achieve that semantic retrieval. So that's this outboard memory that's used to inform the inference process in an efficient way. So those are the two big dimensions of advancement. One has to do with sparsity, and the other has to do with memory. Okay, so memory being like external caching or placement of, and then retrieval of static knowledge that doesn't really change and isn't subject to reasoning and manipulation by the computational process in inference. Okay, so what did DeepSeek do? DeepSeek introduced this thing called Ngram. It's a novel module that's added to their LLM that provides conditional memory as a, and here's the jargon. It's a complementary axis of sparsity that adds to the conditional computation paradigm of mixture of experts models in large language models. So what is this doing? What it's doing is it's efficiently identifying the things that are static knowledge in the input context and putting those into a file, in effect, that's a sort of a scratchpad kind of memory. And this then frees up. Let me just do a quick aside here, that in a regular LLM that doesn't have this conditional memory, what happens is every single time that the inference run is done, the many of the layers of the deep neural network are being used to figure out what these static entities are. Let's think about these as entity names, like the names of individuals or of places, of things that aren't going to change. They're kind of rooted in the basics of physics and or the world. So this new conditional memory from DeepSeek is taking those static sort of Ngram is the technical term for it, embeddings, and using them to do a lookup primitive that is think of it as a very fast short-term memory, and it puts those things into that which is outside the computational process of the deep neural network. And so that preserves many more layers in the inference process to be used for reasoning rather than this computation of the static content. Anyway, that's probably way more than I need to say about that. Let's just suffice to say that as a result of doing that, this new process boosts the performance on knowledge and reasoning benchmarks, and by efficiently freeing up the neural network's resources for more complex reasoning by offloading them into this really fast and at time of inference process. Karl's joined me. Welcome, Karl. I've been holding down the fort here until you joined me. I was just talking probably too long about DeepSeek's Ngram conditional memory breakthrough. I think this is a breakthrough, and once again, the Chinese are doing something that's creating a much more efficient model, and I think that's important. I'll toss it to you, Karl. Welcome, and anything you want to pop in with?
First of all, I thought I was on a different channel because there was one time I showed up and you were talking to Beth, but I couldn't see Beth. So I was just like, oh, I must be on the wrong. But then I just asked you, are you by yourself? Which you are. Okay, so we're here together. So there is a pretty big news this morning that I saw that Meta cut more than 1,000 employees.
Whoa.
Bay Area's first big tech layoffs of 2026. I started seeing a lot of, noise around that this morning from various accounts and whatnot. So, and apparently it's not the cuts aren't touching Facebook, Instagram, or WhatsApp. They're all within Meta's Reality Labs, hence the metaverse.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, okay. That makes sense to me now.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying that they were sort of downsizing their AI department, but no, this is the metaverse side, the now abandoned strategic initiative to create virtual worlds as a foundation in your social media experience.
Yes. And I would imagine it says Meta lays off 10% of Reality Lab staff. So obviously the metaverse it was already done. Now it's really done in terms for Meta's case. Interesting though, they still keep the name. So how does that play it? Like, will they do a name change to something else? I'm curious about that. And I wonder what the rest of the 90% of Reality Lab staff who are remaining at Meta, will they probably moved into Meta Ray-Ban, the glasses, probably reintegrated into their AI teams. So it's pretty significant.
Yeah, there was some other news about Meta, which is, Meta has spent a lot of time over the last 6 months, let's say, poaching and building their super intelligence team, which I think they've recently renamed to be something else, but it's under Alex Wang, the young guy they acquired through the acquisition of the Scale AI company, which was a data-oriented company, not so much sort of an advanced AI, model developer, but certainly relevant to the development of models. And then meanwhile, everybody who's really moving forward in the major competition to achieve AI supremacy, let's call it, rather than AGI or anything else, to have a place at the table with the major companies is also investing heavily into energy and compute. And so I think Meta made an announcement here in the last couple of days of the creation of a new division that's focused on the development of these data centers capacity and committing many, many billions of dollars to that side of it as well. So they're building the team on the inside that's going to be building out the models. And they have, there's some news coming out about what they're working on and what the there's 2 new models they're going to put out here shortly. And one of them a reasoning model. And those will be the first of the non-open source models that come out of that lab and slated for sometime early this year. Go ahead, Karl.
Do you think that they're under, I'm sure they're under pressure with the amount of money, but is it nothing, there's a nothing to lose attitude, or the models they come out with better be somewhat, not even somewhat competitive. I mean, like, they have to be pretty competitive, because if they're not, is that kind of it? Like, because with the Llama 4 flop, all the money they poured into, and then all the news surrounding all the issues, the issues with Jan LeCun, the issues with even them purchasing Manus, which is interesting.
Yeah, which is hobbled by the fact that the Chinese government does not want Manus to go to go to a U.S. company.
Yes. So how does all that, the environment that they've kind of put themselves in, if whatever they produce doesn't pan out or isn't adopted well, Like what's the direction? Like you're paying all these people,
Yeah.
right? And
Well, they definitely have a moat in the form of their major distribution channels, specifically, WhatsApp,
mhm,
Instagram, Facebook. Those three together make it possible to implement AI in those contexts in a way that both becomes a utilization in those platforms, but also introduces people to the meta tools that will be available more broadly to anyone who wants to use them, even if you're not a Facebook or Instagram user.
yeah,
So I think they have that. They have this huge distribution potential. So I don't think that they're really going to be, they won't fall completely by the wayside because of that distribution power. But I think it's pretty obvious that they're unlikely to displace Google, Anthropic, OpenAI at the forefront of technological development of AI just because they, poached a few people and apparently there's turmoil in that. Lots of
yeah,
people have already left and, nobody has, declared incredible respect for the leadership of that initiative. So my sense is that they're not going to suddenly deliver something that's really impressive like DeepSeek does, right? Like DeepSeek is out there making incredible advances and keeping it open source. So anyway, that's my
well,
meta.
they are doubling down, right? So I think their infrastructure chief, Santosh Janardan,
Okay,
will
yeah.
fully, yeah, they have to
Yeah.
replace Daniel Gross, 600 billion into U.S. infrastructure spending by 2028, and lock down a 20-year nuclear power agreement for its data centers, right?
Yeah, and I think that's consistent with their need to provide that scale of inference to the billions of users of the
Yeah.
meta platforms.
Yes, exactly. So would be, we can't write them off, but it's sort of like, they made the commitment. They have like the former um, Trump national security official Dina Powell McCormick will be probably pretty much their government relations person,
Yeah.
right? So they have that, and then the layoffs. I would imagine. I'm not sure if it would impact very much their bottom line on what that looks like, but it'd be interesting. Like they've got all the stuff in place. They should have all the stuff in place now. They have very well, poached and paid researchers. So where does that go for them? So yeah, like
Yeah.
it'll be an interesting 2026 for them too.
Yeah, and another weave with respect to the government application of AI. I don't know. I thought this was old news, but there's news in the newsletters this morning about Pete Hegseth announcing that XAI is going to be integrated into the military, as an AI platform for
Yeah,
both classified and unclassified use. So he's
yeah,
giving a boost to Elon Musk's company internally in the military, uh, despite the fact that X has shown itself to be unprincipled in many ways. One of the things that was in the news just yesterday was in response to the backlash that X has gotten because it's being used to take images and then make them obscene,
yeah,
right? And you can do that with any image you upload on X, or you could even on the free one yesterday. The response to that wasn't, "Oh, this is wrong. We shouldn't allow that," as other models have declared, basically. Instead, they just said, "Oh, well, you have to pay in order to do that."
yeah,
So
yeah.
they make it behind the paywall so that if you're a paying user of X, you can still use it in this obscene, prurient, and/or nefarious way.
Well, that was the thing to me is like, again, when I'm using X and I show it to like it's always a crapshoot, and I'm very, very scared when I'm using X to show a video. Like there's some people who post video that is like fantastic, explainer or whatever. I
Yeah.
just I'm like very careful to hit pause, or because I have no clue, because if it auto goes to the videos, there are some times when it's like straight up porn that comes up to my screen. Like
Right.
I
Right.
don't even know how this works, where you go from like an AI explainer to porn in the the video feed. It's just like I was like,
Yeah.
where how
Crazy.
is this even coming? Like it doesn't make any sense to that. So yeah, it's it's a crapshoot. There's some videos that are so good though, and I can't find them on like YouTube or Instagram. So I'm like, I just gotta pause it right before this thing finishes, and then it's the next video. So yeah, it's kind of X is it's definitely like a town hall, but it's really like the top place to get your like news.
Yeah. You can't avoid the need to refer to X because it's the place where serious announcements
Yes.
occur
Yeah.
from every sector of
Yeah.
business
Yeah.
and technology, and it's particularly technology.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can still use X in that way without
You
running
can.
afoul of
You can.
pornography. So
Yeah. It for the most part it is. It's just the video feed. I don't know if their algorithm's kind of wonky on that. And then I this isn't a X gripe session, but I remember it was really bad for a while when in the comments there'd be like ads or different posts, and you're like, I'm trying to look at the comments for this specific post, but I have to scroll down a bit
yeah,
and find the real comments. And it's like it's just, yeah, it's kind of weird that way, but but what I do like though is the ability to how it links to different pages now, and on the mobile app it actually works quite well because of just how they laid it out. I kind of like that ability to see the like what external websites. So
yeah.
I thought that was kind of a neat upgrade to it.
Okay, I want to spin into something slightly different, which is the world of business agents, automations, active agents that you can create to do workflows and become assistants who can be delegated and objective, and what can do that repeatedly in the business context or even in a personal context. And I wanted to share with you something about a company that I was very fond of early on in 2023 called Vellum, Vellum. And Vellum just announced today, they launched it today in the Neuron, actually, a new UI for their very competent platform that's being used by major, enterprise developers to create agentic workflows. They have a new UI that they describe as like lovable for agents. So a natural language interaction with a dialog box, and then the Vellum platform will create this workflow. It offers, for example, the ability to import a JSON file of your N8N workflows if you want to, and then you can use Vellum to automatically adjust based on your verbal interactions with the Vellum agent. That's the coding agent for these workflows. And so here you just, Vellum is offering AI agents for all your ops tasks, easy implementation. You just describe the task you want to automate, and Vellum turns it into a working agent. And it will ask follow-up questions to understand what you need and connect to your tools. It handles the logic and makes the agent's behavior visible in a workflow diagrammatic format, like we've seen with Make and Zapier and N8N and so on. It handles logic and makes all of that so that you never have to guess what it's doing or why. So that's the product promise of Vellum's AI agents for your ops tasks. I wanted to say that I have a Vellum account because I was using them early on in 2023, well before they got to this agentic model. And when I log in, I can't seem to find that dialogue model UI. So I'm hampered that way. But I think if you were to go to vellum.ai today and create an account, just click get started and create an account, you would be taken directly to that location where that UI is. I can't find it from the original login, but you'll probably find it. And they have a free version with 30 credits a month. So it's definitely worth an experiment. This is a very competent team, really at the forefront, I think, of operationalizing AI usage inside small and medium businesses and major enterprises. And so check it out. And when you find out what the URL is for that, natural language dialogue with the AI agent to build it, send me that URL because I can't find it. Anyway, that's Vellum. Do you have something else you wanted to toss in, or I've got a couple more things? Oh, you're on mute, Karl.
There is one thing I wanted to, it's more of a discussion on.
Yeah, go for it.
So, so there is this post by Nate Jones on the video is called the AI market just split in two. And I think it's a really good video to watch because what he was talking about, where we're always looking at who will win, but I've been noticing this too, is that like it's not who will win, it's like what are they actually, who's their market for, right? And I think you're starting to see the divergence of where they're focused on. And also what we're seeing too is it's less about one tool to rule them all. And that's why we advocate for systems thinking, not tools thinking, but rather, hey, what tool would you use for this specific task? And there's different uses for them. So, and it's interesting because he talks about the core philosophies in terms of safety, in terms of where they want to go. And it was really interesting where, Sam Altman came from Y Combinator, right? He had looped, didn't work out, then he became head of Y Combinator. And a big ethos of Y Combinator is deploy and iterate. Like deploy, see what works, go, right? Don't wait, just keep going. Very, very in line of philosophy where I go. It's like, we got to go if it fail fast. But that is the version of from a safety side. It's like you learn safety by deploying, right? So you go out, you get the user feedback, you deploy, and then you iterate off that. Now, on the other hand, Anthropic, a little different because he was like, Dario is a scientist by training, and AI systems must be thoroughly understood, proven before deployment. Very scientific method, right? So it's like we need to test everything out before we deploy it. And so you can kind of see, right, like where OpenAI has video, has audio, has like just go and go and go and go, deploy, versus Anthropic's doesn't like, they deploy, but it's like, it's not like they're just deploying and seeing what sticks, right? So, but it's two very different views on it. And that was Nate Jones' argument, or like what his video is about, right?
Yeah.
And talking about the background, talking about like how the death of Dario's dad had a big impact because the condition could have been solved or cured just a little bit after he died. And it's like, hey, this is the AI has the power to do this. Let's get this right. And Sam Altman, more of a entrepreneur tech leader, let's get going, put it out into market and ship fast, right? So it's two very different things. And I think even the vision of where they want to go, right? You can kind of see where Anthropic, Cowork, the Excel plugin, very focused on the enterprise level. But then you can see OpenAI very consumer focused, right? And you can see who's uptaking, right? You can see like who's the market share, enterprise, consumers, like that's what they're looking for. So it's just an interesting thing. And even from like just, the people we're just helping companies use it, you can kind of see too that outside the bubble, it's mostly ChatGPT, and even like enterprise work with it's a lot of ChatGPT, but the benefits that Claude can do, hence co-work, hence like those things, are really, really good. The only thing that I have a gripe with is their integration into the Office 365 environment. And I still think ChatGPT for Business Enterprise has a much better integration, company knowledge, those connectors, better than connectors that Claude has for that specific environment, which is a big segment, right? Both of them have decent ones for Google Drive and so on, but it's that Microsoft integration, and that's pretty obvious. But I thought it was just interesting that instead of looking at it as who will win, because that's what we see, it's rather like, hey, the pie is growing, and there's different avenues now, and there's things that are better at each. Like, so for me, I don't say, when people say, what do you use? I'm like, I say I use all of them because they have very unique purposes, and I try to combo them because that's how you get the best output, not I'm going to force feed this task into this. It's like,
I'm curious about a couple things. One is, obviously OpenAI, because of their early association with Microsoft, had an opportunity to build enterprise tools that were tightly integrated with the Microsoft Office 365 environment.
Yeah.
And do you think it was Anthropic like just kind of ceding that territory to OpenAI because of that partnership? And that ultimately they'll catch up in terms of the quality of their integrations with Office 365?
I'm not sure necessarily. So it was interesting because, like, if you think about it, ChatGPT Health, right? They had the numbers. How many, 200 million queries on health related issues every week? Isn't that like, or 40 million per day or something like that?
Yeah.
And like, could you have seen ChatGPT in the past pivoting to health? I'm not sure, but the numbers are telling them, hey, if our consumer base is consuming a lot on health, wouldn't it make sense to go into health? And then they acquired Torch, I think, the app too. So like, that to me makes sense. And then with Anthropic, and you can see their, like, it just makes business sense if you're looking at, hey, the use of our tool is code and enterprise. Would you not lean on that because your user base is doing that's like pretty basic business like acumen to be like at that, right? So if ChatGPT's, hey, we see health, we're gonna hit health. And then I don't know if people have seen some of the rumors and things that like the leakers do, like jobs could be next, right? Because that's a huge opening in there too, right? Because it's like right now people are I don't know if I shared this on this show, but I saw a TikTok where, and I think it was Bloomberg who had that. Bloomberg's TikTok said that a third of people on dating sites are using it to find jobs because they cannot find jobs on like a LinkedIn or Indeed because it's overwhelmed with AI applications. And then the companies are so overwhelmed they're using AI. So what the people are doing is they're going into a Tinder, a Bumble, a Hinge. And even though they're not supposed to, because I think there's rules saying this is a personal site, not professional, they're trying to find people who work at certain companies and say, hey, I'm not looking to date you. I'm looking, hey, this is a professional connection. I see that you work for whoever. can you make an introduction for me? And I was like, that's genius. And if Tinder and Bumble, which don't have a necessarily, the business model doesn't make any sense, because if they're successful, they should be losing money. If I were them, I'm like, I would triple down. Like, you know what? Bumble for professionals, Tinder for professionals.
Yeah.
This is a place to connect people to people, real people to real people. You have that section. I believe you'll make a lot of money on that, more than you'll make a lot of money on the dating apps, because isn't it like the stock's down, people using it down, hence people want to meet in real life? Like, that's to me a gold opportunity.
There's another $1 million idea from the Daily AI Show. Go for it. Thank you. Thanks for offering that one. I have a kind of a weave and in respect of what's happening in the sort of, let's call it the AI bubble, not the AI bubble on the sort of infrastructure side and the huge investments that are required with questionable return on investment ultimately. That whole bubble is actually aggravated by the fact that the efficiencies that are being developed in the model side and the rapid advancements of the chip capabilities are degrading the lifetime, the useful lifetime of those huge investments, right? So that they don't have enough time to recoup the investment before they have to make another investment to get to the next level of compute, all of that. But there's this other question about the AI bubble, which is just, is it really providing ROI in the workplace, in the, startup, in the, technology sector? And I think the answer is being shown pretty clearly that there are dramatic advances in efficiency and productivity that are available in the technology sector for sure. And we've seen some reports to cover that. But for just the general companies that you work with, for example, at 0 to 60, those are not technology companies by and large. They're non-tech companies. Those companies aren't necessarily seeing a lot of benefit, with a few exceptions. Like I think you've given us many examples of where you've been able to automate processes to dramatic effect inside some of those companies. But here's there's a vendor in the space called Miro, and I'm not even clear what Miro offers, but they commissioned a Forrester survey of enterprise. And here's some interesting outcomes from that Forrester research. And I don't have access to the research, but I have access to these takeaways that they promoted on the Miro site. First of all, 75% of these enterprise leaders feel that current AI tools focus too much on individual productivity rather than collaborative team outcomes. And that creates silos and hurts coordination in their teams. Now, they might be responding to a survey question that was phrased in such a way as to get them to agree with it, that the 75% believe that, yes, we're able to implement AI to the benefit of an individual contributor. Like if I were in that company, because I'm an AI fluent person, I would be more productive than somebody who's not using AI. We see that. That's obvious. Mm-hmm. But where are the tools that use AI in a collaborative team context? And we're getting there, I believe, with agents, where agents will soon rise to the level where they are an active member of the team and are acting to facilitate the coordination and collaboration among all the human team members as well. So I believe that that's happening. The second one is that 70% agreed with the premise that people having to switch between SaaS tools, the things that they've been accustomed to working with, and separated AI tools. So this is different, like I'm using ChatGPT over here, but I'm also using Intact for our financial ERP, and have to kind of bounce back and forth between those two, export a CSV file, to put it over here. All of that is creating friction in the workplace. And there has to be tighter integration across SaaS tools and those AI tools.
One thing I want to point out on that, and a lot of the times we're looking for an API because each industry has their own unique kind of SaaS software. I don't know what it is in the construction industry. I think Trimble, Bid to Win, those kind of things. I've seen like Innate, Vista, like in accounting, you obviously have Sage ERP. Some companies use QuickBooks Online. And then there's companies that have made their own software and run it forever, right? Like their internal ones. And that's a big thing. It's like we thought MCP could solve it, but MCP only hits like big time connectors to the major SaaS tools that kind of like Asana, like things that aren't industry specific. And so it's very hard to, unless you know what you're doing, build an MCP on top of this software. But if the company has like 4 or 5 different ERP or one ERP, one unique software, one bidding software, whatever that is it worth your time building 3 or 4 or 5 MCPs? The thing that we're starting to look at, and I think this is where companies like Snowflake, Databricks, and even Google BigQuery make a difference, is like, hey, ditch trying to connect them. One thing you could do is just build a data lake. You can make it super simple, use Google BigQuery, and have it pull the data from all these different places. And as long as they have an API, you can do that. And then you put your MCP on top of that data lake. And that's the key, because I think like one of our clients, we've already done that, where they have so many different tools. You put a data lake in there and they can use their ChatGPT to be like, hey, what did this in Sage? We did this, we could do this. And you're not doing any work on the SaaS tool itself. You don't have to mess around with the files in those places so that you operate as usual. But now your AI sits on top of a lake that is pulling, in some cases, real time. And that just makes it until whatever happens with the SaaS tool happens. But at the very least, and it's a much reasonable investment in time and resources than trying to do the other way around.
Yeah. Well, that reminds me of, the former business intelligence architecture, like, for example, Looker, which is a Google business intelligence platform. It's basically, and I'm sure it's more advanced now and has AI tools built into it and so on. But one of the first requirements of using Looker effectively is that you have to do ETL, exchange, transform, load, all your data from every different source into a single Redshift or, at least MySQL database. So everything's in a single database. I'm going to have many, many, many tables with multiple joins and so on, but it has to go into one place first. And then Looker sits on top of that as the intelligence layer, the business intelligence layer that allows you to generate SQL queries in a simple kind of spreadsheet way. Now I'm sure AI is that new intelligence layer. So, but the first thing you have to do is you have to do the ETL process to get it all into one place.
Yes. The question is, how does Claude Cowork fit into it? Oh, perfect. Claude Cowork has MCP, right? So all you need to do, if you have a data lake, and Google has made this even easier because they have a native MCP for BigQuery. So you just tap into that MCP into your instance of BigQuery with your data pulling from various places. And you just go to Claude Cowork and it's part of the task. Hey, I want you to go pull from whatever their name of the data lake, however you partitioned it. Hey, I want you to go to Sage, do this, go into Bid to Win, do this. Now I also want you to go into my Google Drive and do this. Like, you can list out all these tasks. And it's like a true agent. It's like this, execute. And if you're really you want to throw a fun into that, add like a Ralph Wiggum loop into there and be like, hey, I'm going to go to sleep or I'm going to take a nap. And when I'm done, you've brute forced your way into whatever you have. And then you have skills, right? If you can build skills plus MCP plus a data, like now we're getting a little into like more advanced, really advanced territory. Like, but if a company knew how, like, if they actually did all this, what they can do with AI, just 100x's, right? That to me is like the ultimate thing that companies can do. It's just hard for people to even understand all the pieces that I just mentioned: a skill, an MCP, a data lake, and Claude Code for co-work. And if I say any of that to any of our clients, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. All right. Well, co-work is going to make it easier for all of us to experiment with those things. We, on a personal, professional level, I would hesitate to characterize my Google Drive as a data lake, but in a way it is, right? There's a lot of different dimensions to it. Yeah. And if I open up all those folders and co-work has access to those, then I can just do natural language conversation with co-work, and it's going to go find the right data, and in fact, scour that drive in a way that I couldn't spend enough time to do. But it's tireless and it will be persistent and get it done. So I think let's wrap it up here. Karl, thanks so much for joining me. It was an interesting discussion. I look forward to our next meeting. And everybody in the chat, thank you so much for all your great comments. And they definitely steer our thinking as we're, having our conversations. Really nice to have you. Have a great day, everyone. And come join us again tomorrow, 7 a.m. on the West Coast, 10 a.m. on the East Coast. We're doing it live. If you join us on YouTube, that's where you can actually participate in the group chat that's active and alive over here on the right-hand side of my view. All right. I'm going to end the stream. Thanks so much. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Thanks, everybody.